Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, brothers and sisters and friends of IQRA TV. We've been talking about mental health issues in the first part of the program. We have a fantastic young man here, Ishtiaq Ahmed, who is Chief Executive of an organization based in Bradford, a not-for-profit organization which works around mental health issues, trying to make sure that services and provision for people from the black minority ethnic community is appropriate for their needs, and that they're getting the level of services that they deserve. We've been talking around some of the key issues that affect us, but one of the things that a lot of people have difficulty in recognizing is what is mental health, what is described as mental health. So before we move on to the next area of our discussion, I'm going to ask, I know he's not a clinician, but he's got vast experience in this field. If you can just give us an overview of some of the symptoms that present themselves which lead to mental health, that might help people, our viewers.
Okay, I'm going to take from an age perspective here. The vast majority of people that we see, say from the age of 7 upwards up to 30, 35, unfortunately a lot of it is drug-induced psychosis as well, which is a major concern for us. But of course, in this current kind of modern day kind of capitalist society that we live in, the pressures on young people are so immense in terms of, I guess, they're perhaps one of the most over-consumerized generations ever. The elements of advertisements that they're exposed to, they've got to have a particular type of phone, a particular kind of dress sense, they've got to wear the latest trainers, the latest trends, everything else. And then, of course, social media plays a huge part in terms of their kind of their attitudes to society generally, okay? So, we're seeing now high levels of self-harm amongst young people, which never was before.
From the age of 7 as well?
Up to the same of 7. And yes, as early as 7, because we do some work in primary schools as well. So from the age of 7 upwards, right, by the time they reach 14, 15, those issues will have manifested themselves into kind of, intense mental health issues, okay? So young people is a major concern, and I think this government has now recognized that young people's mental health is a major priority. And therefore the funding streams have now kind of changed in the sense that the priorities are young people. And therefore, on a regional level, we are very much part of the Youth in Mind project, which is the Children and Young People's Green Paper that this government introduced 2 years ago. And so primarily, there are also issues around body image, self-image as well. But the other thing that we seldom talk about is children who have suffered sexual abuse, okay? And it's another subject which is a very taboo subject amongst our communities. Let's not be fooled, okay? There are many cases amongst our communities of child sexual abuse which goes unreported. And even if the family become aware of it, okay, they will suppress it because it brings shame. It brings, perhaps services that, are uninvited. So that's another major issue that, we need to talk about some of these issues, right, where young people can express their concerns in a non-stigmatizing way, and so they can seek early help. So,
So in terms of, manifestation of these issues in young people and adults as well, how does that sort of come out, so to speak? I mean,
well, in young people's, it will be kind of symptoms will be kind of
self-harm,
abnormal behavior, self-harm, social isolation. They'll be socially excluded. They will be disruptive. They will start taking drugs, and of course, this will have a massive impact on their education. They'll be missing school. They'll be skipping school. And so that will then have a major impact on their physical health as well.
The reason I'm asking, I want to see parents to understand what signs they should look out for. If they see these things happening in their young, children, boys or girls, what are the sort of more common signs which can then trigger something in the parents' mind to say, hey, let me see what is going on here?
I think one of the biggest signs is social isolation. Those who are perhaps,
just to come in there, social isolation and this I say, you've said it, the taboo subject, whether it's our young children, I say our young children, it's very important that we say that it's, whether it's sexual grooming and harassment or bullying, cyberbullying, or even, all these kind of crimes, I've just dealt with a parent stroke carer of a child that was sexually, how can I say, abused, and the child then withdrew, had a massive impact in their education with GCSEs and etc. coming around the corner, but more importantly, the family did not want to do anything about it to the abuser. Rather, the victim was helped within a close circle.
Were they really helped?
No, they weren't.
They were closeted away.
They were closeted away.
Yes.
And unfortunately, this is something that is real and happening, and Asian mentality is as such that Izzat, Khandan, or what will happen to our family, what will happen to the perpetrator. Well, it's quite clear that they need to be dealt with through the authorities and be reported, and all the abuse that has took place, there'll be more abuse to follow afterwards if we don't do anything, unfortunately. And the other thing is, there won't be no closure for the victim here, because they're gonna throughout their next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of their life growing up, will see that abuser day in, day out in their own lives, or they may overdose, or they might self-harm, and they might become an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, which is the scenario, unfortunately,
which is what
that happens.
Ishtiaq's saying, that if you don't treat it, if you don't deal with it properly, it could end up in those situations where people turn to drugs and alcohol and abuse, self-harm. So, I mean, in terms of parents' vigilance, right? I mean, obviously there are different levels that people will travel through before they really suffer some of the worst effects of mental health. And early intervention is very important, isn't it?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you don't have early intervention, you won't be able to recognize the issues and therefore treat it. Yeah. So what should parents be really looking at in terms of, I know you said isolation.
Sure.
You know, a child might withdraw.
Okay.
Right? So we can understand that if a child withdraws, stops talking to people, stops socializing, you know, is not the normal
they become withdrawn, they socially isolate themselves. It will of course have an impact on their behavior, where they become more disruptive. The child is trying to express their feelings, it can be very difficult to do so, especially when you have a very close culture that doesn't allow any form of expression or free expression, or free thinking. So therefore they will think, well, who can I turn to, that they can trust? And it's normally either the teachers or somebody from or somebody who's perhaps not even from that culture, where they feel more comfortable talking about it, because they may think that it may get back to their parents. So so those are some of the major signs, and as parents, parents know their children better than anybody else.
Yes, or should do.
Or should do.
That's another thing you've raised there, where parents' responsibility is having that one-to-one, having that friendship.
Relationship.
Yeah, it's not just about mother and father and dad and mum straight. No, become a friend, talk to them. How was your school? How was your madrasa? What did you do? Anything? Not catching up and realizing, okay, he or she is spending too much time in the bedroom, or they're not coming down for dinner or tea, or they're not doing their homework, or some concerns about school and grades. So what do? I think this is what I meant by the breakdown of our society and families. Yeah. And more importantly,
I mean, are parents themselves under pressure at the moment, the way things are economically within families, where both parents are working?
Yes.
Both parents. So the key thing is take time out for your family.
Of course, very important.
Take time out for your children.
I think it's crucial, and it's not an excuse to say for economic reasons, If the parents have chosen to have these children, they have a moral responsibility to ensure that they instill good values, they spend time, they build a good relationship, so they understand their children, and that's the key important thing. Now, of course, there are many kind of training programs now that are available around parenting skills,
courses,
parenting courses, approachable parenting is one aspect of training. I think it's funded through various bodies, but they lay out, in terms of what the responsibilities are for parents. So it's poor parenting to say that, well, actually, because of economic reasons we're busy working, No, I think
it's the easy excuse for the parents themselves.
Of course it is.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying
of course not.
That's one of the reasons. I mean, there's no way parents should be. If you're going to have children, then you have a legal, moral, Islamically as well as a legal and a moral
obligation,
responsibility. That you raise those children within a context that it provides all the things that we've talked about, a family environment. But do parents sometimes see this as they find sometimes it's an easy opportunity for them to absolve themselves of responsibility by passing the children on to the teachers during the daytime, the madrasas in the evening, and then they come home and the parents have got no time for them. So it is crucial, as you said, for parents to find time. Make sure they have very good lines of communication, that there's an open environment within the family where children can come and talk to them.
Of course.
And much more importantly, in the world that we live in at the moment, children are under huge pressure from all sorts of things that Ishtiaq has already mentioned, from external pressure around fashion, around fitting into society, cyberbullying, etc. That parents provide that opportunity within the home where children can come and talk to them about some of these issues that confront them in the school. I mean, a few years ago, of all the newspapers in this country, the Sun came up with a headline which said 75% of Muslim children in Bradford were victims of bullying. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And they were victims of bullying because of Islamophobia, around all these issues around terrorism. I mean, we haven't even spoken about Islamophobia and children in schools where they're victims because simply they're Muslims.
For that information then.
Yeah, I mean, have you got some information around that? It'd be useful.
Do they have these kind of stats, or do you have these kind of stats about this?
There are, but I think much more work and research is needed, right? Yeah, okay. But from my personal experience, I think Islamophobia plays a huge role in terms of the kind of impact it has on people's emotional well-being. I personally, have been a victim of Islamophobia, okay, and hence one of the reasons for the last 3 years I refused to watch the news, okay, because it was having a profound impact on me. It was relentless, the kind of the levels of Islamophobia. You open up a newspaper, you put on the television, you tune into the radio. In the end, I decided that I just did not want to listen to the news anymore. Now, that's myself, who perhaps understands the kind of political scenario on a nation and global level. But what about those people that don't have a political understanding? Can you imagine their frustrations, right? Okay, building up inside them. Being discriminated on a daily basis, right? Yeah, okay.
We could lead this into the prevent agenda.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a huge area there.
We need to talk about that as well.
That's a separate debate altogether.
That's a totally separate debate. I mean, vulnerabilities around that. I mean, I understand that. Obviously there's a huge issue there. But I mean, I want to focus more on what can we do to address some of the issues that we've talked about in a roundabout way about the roles of the mosque. But let's talk about the imams. The leadership in the mosques. I mean, we're not going to be able to do justice to this subject. But I would like to come back one day to talk about this notion about what is the role of an imam in the masjid. Is it simply to come and lead 5 times a day, namaz, and then go away? Or do we now need to start looking at imams who are full-time imams, who have counseling skills and experience, who come in and provide a holistic service for the whole community, including counseling for people who have mental health issues, and bring them back into the fold of Islam and giving them the strength to become better Muslims, which hopefully will negate some of the other issues which are confronting them. Inshallah, we'll want to come back on that. And I know you're chomping on the bits to come and talk about that. But much more importantly, I mean, viewers, as we've said to you before, Real Talk is about some of the issues that confront us as a community, not just as a Muslim community, but as a community as a whole. And some of these issues don't just confront us as a Muslim community, they confront all the communities within which we live. So we have a legal responsibility Islamically to talk about our other brothers and sisters and friends who live around us as well. This is a huge issue. I'd like to come back to this one day, and I would like to hear from you, our viewers. Email, you've got the email addresses, you've got the phone numbers. Email us and say what are your thoughts and your views. I'm really sorry, we've run out of time. Ishtiaq, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Inshallah, we'll come back to you with you. Mufti Sahib, thank you for your input. Very useful as usual. Inshallah, we'll come back one of these days to this issue because this is not going to go away. Jazakallah khair. May Allah be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.